In this James the Bike Guy video, we're checking out the 2022 Trek Madone SL6. This is a very fast aerodynamic road bike from Trek, and we're going to go into some of the features and designs about this bike, talk about who it's for and what it's all about, as well as exactly what it weighs. So if this kind of thing is interesting to you, sit back and let's check out this bike together. The Trek Madone is a race-bred road bike that falls in the aerodynamic category. So Trek has their Amanda series, which is a lightweight climber bike, and then they have their Domani series, which is a more upright, more endurance-ready bike. And this being the aerodynamic bike is going to run the same H1.5 performance geometry that they use on the Amanda, but instead of focusing just on weight, they add things like this integrated cable routing into the head tube. You've got these giant down tubes and the whole bit to make it nice and arrow blades to the fork, the rear end, as well as the integrated seat post. And all that is really going to help increase the aerodynamic chops of the bike. Now, why somebody might want an aero bike versus just lightweight is often because unless you're climbing, the weight is not necessarily working against you quite the same as aero. So aerodynamics is really something you're breaking through all the time. So being able to put some of the effort into making it slip through the air should help maintain speeds a bit better. And this being the SL6 version means that this is going to run Trek's 500 series OCLV carbon. So Trek has a 500 and a 700 series carbon. This bike's not available in an aluminum variant. And the 700 series comes on their SLR bikes. And that uses much of the same design of this bike, but it has a totally integrated front end. So the handlebar, all that's integrated. And what I like about the SL version of the bike is it's going to run a traditional stem and bar combo, but you can see through where the spacers are for the headset. That's going to allow the cable routing to get tucked in and go all internal. And if you check this out, I mean, this bike is just so thin and slender in the front end, helping to reduce some of the frontal area of the bike to help it even more aerodynamic. Now going to the back, you'll see the seat post goes into the frame there, and then it's going to be adjusted using these two little bolts on the back. And what's kind of interesting about this is you'll also see this IsoSpeed cover. So if you're familiar with any of the Trek road bikes in their lineup, they use something called IsoSpeed, which is essentially a bearing system through here that divorces the seat tube from the top tube and seat stay junction. And that essentially allows the back end to flex. When you go over a really hard bump, it helps soften out some of those kind of big hits on the bike. And it's a little tough to see here, but you'll notice that the seat post going in runs along this almost leaf spring action as it goes through. So that IsoSpeed is damped via this piece, is a small piece that you can adjust front to back to stiffen or soften how much flex you'll get out of the back end of the bike. So that way, if you feel like it's not quite as efficient as you'd want, you're easily able to stiffen up the rear end, or if you're in a really rough spot, you can soften the way that the bike feels. A few other things to mention on the frame. It's going to be this carbon fork that goes down to a 12 by 100 millimeter front through axle, a 12 by 142 millimeter through axle in the back, and then a threaded T47 bottom bracket, which is really nice to see. Gets away from the press fit bottom brackets we've seen on some of the previous Trek models. And they've got a few other neat features. Right here, a spot to be able to put your duo trap sensor, and that duo trap sensor in the back helps keep everything nice and tidy and aerodynamic, avoiding the need to have, say, some zip ties on your chainstay for the sensor to mount. Cockpit wise, as we were talking before, everything is going to be a standard bar and stem, which in my opinion is real nice to see. So this uses a Bontrager Elite Aero VR CF handlebar. Basically, that means that this is going to have an aero profile. You can see it's a very flat top style bar. It's going to run a bit longer reach going forward to the hoods of 93 millimeters and a middle height of 123 millimeters. So the reach is from the center forward on the bar, and then the drop of 123 is your distance between here. And the saddle on the back is a truncated style saddle where the nose is a bit shorter with a generous cutout using this Bontrager Aeolus comp saddle. The drivetrain on this bike is going to be indicated via the nomenclature on the bike. So this being an SL6 means the 6 comes with Ultegra level components. A 5 would be 105 and a 7 would be Di2. And here we've got the mechanical 2x11 drivetrain from Ultegra. So this is one down from the very top, but still mechanical setup. And the mechanical Ultegra derailleur is going to operate through an 11 to 30 tooth Ultegra rear cassette and moves forward through an Ultegra crankset hosting 50/34 chainring sizes. Now the shifting of the bike is done right on top using this shift and brake combo lever. So this is a pretty neat setup where the brake is integrated, so it brakes, and then you've got a inside button to go to harder gear, whole lever over to go to an easier gear. And that means that you can do this down from the drops or up on the hoods. And these are going to be a hydraulic brake setup operating 2 piston calipers on the front and the rear with 160 millimeter rotors. Keeping the bike rolling very aerodynamic is going to be the Bontrager Aeolus Comp 5 wheels. These are an aluminum rim with a carbon fiber fairing. So that means this top piece here where you see the seam is aluminum, carbon fairing for the aerodynamic purposes, and then they're hosting some Bontrager R3 tires. So these R3 tires are in a 700 by 25C with the hard case protection. So that means it's going to have protection through the center line of the tire tread, but these are still going to be a fast rolling and efficient tire. With the size 56 put on the scale, you'll see that it comes in at 19 pounds 11 ounces. Thanks for watching this video on the 2022 Trek Madone SL6. Go ahead and leave your comments down below. I'd love to know what you think about this bike. How do you feel about aero bikes versus lightweight bikes? And where would you see yourself riding on this? While you're at it, be sure to hit subscribe and browse the channel to see more videos like this as well.